All I wanted was a peaceful weekend to patch up the old dock at my lake cabana, quiet, no drama kind of task. But of course, that didn't sit well with the neighborhood's self-declared ruler, Karen from the HOA. I had barely pulled out my toolbox when I heard her heels clacking down the dock like she was about to deliver a court summons. "You can't do that without HOA approval," she snapped, arms crossed. Lips pursed like she'd just caught me committing a federal crime. I calmly explained it was my dock, my property, and a simple repair. No heavy construction, no disturbance, just fixing a couple boards. But that wasn't enough. Karen didn't care. She said I was violating lakefront aesthetics and going rogue. Before I could blink, she was already on the phone, calling the sheriff like I was building a secret marina. "I have a trespasser," she whispered loudly enough for me to hear. The thing is, I wasn't just some random guy with a cabin, a tay. But I didn't tell her that. When the deputy arrived, Karen marched up like a hero reporting a crime in progress. I reached for my wallet, not to show my ID. But the ID, the one that shut her down before she could finish another sentence. She went pale. Her jaw actually dropped. And in that moment, standing between the worn dock planks and her HOA rules, she finally realized she'd picked the wrong person to mess with. The funny part is, this lake cabin has been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather built the dock himself back in the 60s, long before there was ever an HOA, a security gate, or Karen with her clipboard and laminated rulebook. I grew up swimming off that dock, fixing it every few summers, and never once did anyone complain until now. The HOA, which Karen basically runs like her personal fiefdom, had recently passed some vague policy about unapproved waterfront modifications, but it clearly didn't apply to basic repairs. Still, she acted like I was breaking federal law. As the deputy looked at her, then back at me, I could see he was confused. I hadn't even spoken yet, just handed over my ID calmly. Karen, on the other hand, was practically vibrating with anticipation, expecting the cop to haul me away, or at least issue some sort of citation. But instead, the deputy's face shifted the moment he saw my credentials. His entire posture changed. I could tell he recognized my name immediately. And not just because I was a cabin owner. Karen, though, didn't notice at first. She kept rattling off some nonsense about HOA bylaws, how she'd warned the new guy, and how rules were rules. Meanwhile, I could see the deputy silently mouthing something to her, something that made her eyes twitch. She stopped mid-sentence and blinked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. That's when the real tension started to build. Karen's face went pale. When she finally read the name on the ID, she looked at me, then at the badge, then back at the deputy. You could almost hear the gears in her head, trying to backtrack every word she'd spat out earlier. The deputy gave her a subtle nod, like, "You might want to stop talking now." But of course, Karen being Karen, she didn't. "Well, I don't care who he is," she huffed. "The dock's not approved, it has to come down. That's what. The HOA rules say everyone has to follow them." She crossed her arms, but her voice cracked slightly. I kept quiet, letting the tension do the heavy lifting. The deputy asked her to step aside so he could speak with me privately, and that's when she really started to unravel. She kept pacing back and forth, glancing over like she was trying to eavesdrop. As we talked, I gave the deputy a brief rundown. The dock repairs were within state lakefront property guidelines. No permits were required for maintenance, and the HOA had no jurisdiction over pre-existing structures. He nodded, already aware of most of it. But here's where it got messy. Karen had reportedly been issuing fines to other neighbors too, beyond her authority. Some had paid, others had just kept quiet to avoid drama. This wasn't just about me fixing a dock anymore. It was about Karen crossing a line, and now her control over the entire HOA was starting to crack. Karen didn't leave. even after the deputy made it clear there was no violation and no legal grounds for her complaint. She lingered near the edge of my property, like she was searching for something to hold on to. She pulled out her phone, snapping pictures of the dock from every angle, muttering about documentation and pending violations. I could see the cracks forming. Her confidence was fading, but she was too stubborn to let go. Later that afternoon, I started getting texts from other cabin owners. Word had spread. Apparently, I wasn't the only one she'd harassed lately. One neighbor said she got fined for repainting her shutters without prior color approval. Another mentioned Karen threatened to have his fire pit removed because it was too close to the waterline. No one had ever questioned it until now. That night, a small group of us met by the picnic tables near the community fire ring. One by one, people started sharing stories. Fines they'd paid, forms they'd signed, threats they'd received. Someone even brought out a printed HOA manual and pointed out that Karen had been adding rules that were never officially voted on. It became clear Karen wasn't enforcing the HOA. She was rewriting it to fit her mood. The tension peaked when one of the older residents said quietly, "I think we've all been afraid of her for too long. We all knew something had to give, and it was only a matter of time before Karen pushed just a little too far." The next morning, just when I thought things might cool down, I woke up to find a bright orange notice taped to the side of my cabin. "Immediate cease and desist," it read in bold, with some HOA header that looked like it was made on a home printer. No signature, no legal backing, just a vague threat about unauthorized shoreline activity. It was pure nonsense, but now it was posted where every neighbor could see it. Before I could even take it down, I got a call from the same deputy. "Thought you should know," he said. "Karen filed an official complaint this time. She's claiming environmental impact. Says your dock repairs disrupted shoreline wildlife." That was the twist I didn't see coming. She wasn't just using HOA rules now, she was trying to bring in the county. Sure enough, by mid-afternoon, a white truck with a county seal pulled into the driveway. A young environmental inspector stepped out, holding a clipboard and looking confused. "I got a report about illegal shoreline development," he said, glancing at the old wooden dock that had clearly been there for decades. I explained everything: family history, routine maintenance, no new construction, no machinery. He nodded, clearly not seeing any actual violation. But then he paused. "Funny thing," he said. "This isn't the first complaint I've received from this neighborhood. I've got 4 others flagged under the same name. Someone's been filing a lot of reports lately." That's when I knew Karen wasn't done yet. She was just getting more creative. The inspector took photos of the dock, scribbled some notes, and shook his head with a slight smirk. "Honestly, this all looks like a personal grudge. There's nothing here that violates any environmental regulations." He told me he'd file his report clearing the complaint and added, "You might want to keep an eye on whoever keeps dragging you into this mess." That same evening, I saw Karen pacing on her porch, phone glued to her ear, watching my cabin, like a hawk. But this time, she wasn't yelling. She looked nervous. The reason became clear when a black SUV pulled up to her driveway. Out stepped a man in uniform, one of the district's court enforcement officers. Apparently, in her effort to stir up trouble, she had unknowingly involved herself in filing false reports, a violation that had triggered a legal review once. My judicial ID was flagged. He approached her calmly but firmly, presenting papers and warning her about legal consequences for harassment and misuse of public resources. Her face turned pale. The woman who had been calling the shots was now struggling to form words. She stuttered something about not knowing who I was, which the officer ignored. Just when it felt like justice had been served, the twist came: Karen wasn't acting alone. A man stepped out from behind her garage, holding a clipboard. "We need to talk about your zoning," he said to me with a strange smile. Turns out Karen had friends in county planning. And the game wasn't over yet. I stood there, tired of the games, but not about to back down. The zoning official flipped through his clipboard, clearly expecting to intimidate. But what he didn't expect was that I had every permit, every approval, and every legal document neatly filed away, signed off by the very county office he claimed to represent. I calmly invited him to my cabin, handed him the paperwork, and watched his smug expression shift to awkward silence as he skimmed the first few pages. Karen stayed on her porch, watching like a hawk, but not saying a word this time. The man gave a half-hearted thank you for your cooperation, then walked off without another challenge. I knew then it wasn't about zoning or the docket, was about control. And for people like Karen, seeing someone live peacefully without their permission is the ultimate offense. By the following week, I received written confirmation that not only was the dock approved and complaint-free, but the HOA had launched an internal investigation into Karen's misuse of community rules. She'd stepped one toe too far over the line, and even her connections couldn't shield her forever.